The moment Sarah knelt beside the wounded Apache man, she knew her life was about to change. She just didn't know how much. His breathing was shallow, his shirt soaked in blood, and the harsh desert wind carried the sound of distant horses. Everyone else on the ranch had ridden past him as if he were nothing, but a shadow on the sand. But Sarah couldn't. Something inside her, something human, wouldn't let her. She tore a strip from her sleeve, pressed it to the wound, and whispered, "You're gonna be all right. I've got you." It was in that moment, with dust swirling around her boots and the weight of a man's life in her hands, that the ranch owner, Mr. Collins, appeared, rage burning in his eyes. Before we continue this powerful story, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to Stories That Heal, where every story reminds us that kindness still matters. Mr. Collins didn't ask a single question. Didn't ask why the Apache man was bleeding. Didn't ask if he was dying. He just pointed a shaking finger at Sarah. "Get away from him. You're done here. Pack your things." Sarah froze, stunned. Fired for helping someone? But the other ranch hands stared at her as if she had broken some sacred law. To them, Apaches were the enemy. Helping one was betrayal. The wounded man tried to speak, but his voice was a faint breath lost in the wind. Sarah didn't argue, didn't beg, didn't defend herself. She just placed a gentle hand on his shoulder and whispered, "I'm not leaving you." Collins spat at the ground and galloped away, leaving Sarah jobless in the middle of the desert, beside a man who might not last another hour. But not even 30 minutes passed before the ground began to tremble. Hoofbeats, slow at first, then louder, then a thunder rolling across the plains. Sarah stood and turned. A line of Apache riders appeared over the ridge, strong, steady, silent. At their front rode a man with braided hair, a carved staff, and eyes that held the weight of generations, the Apache Chief. He dismounted with a surprising tenderness, pushing past the wall of riders with only one voice in his mind. The wounded young man lying beside Sarah. The chief knelt, inspected the wound, and then looked at Sarah, not with suspicion, but with a deep, searching respect. "You saved my son," he said quietly. Those 4 words shook Sarah more than Collins's anger ever could. His son? The chief rose and signaled to his men. They built a stretcher from branches and hide, lifted the young man gently, and prepared to carry him home. Then something unexpected happened. The chief removed a small carved medallion from around his neck, ancient, worn, clearly priceless, and placed it in Sarah's hand. "Kindness shown in the wind returns like the rain," he said. "When others turned away, you stayed." Sarah felt tears sting her eyes. She had only followed her heart, yet this tribe, these warriors were treating her like family. Moments later, the chief mounted his horse. But before riding off, he added one final sentence that would change everything. "No one who chooses humanity should walk alone. If your ranch no longer welcomes you, our village will." It wasn't said as a favor. It was said as truth. In the days that followed, word spread across the territory. People whispered about the woman who helped an Apache and about the chief who rode into a white ranch to honor her courage. Some mocked her, some admired her, but no one ignored her. As for Mr. Collins, well, when the townsfolk learned why she'd been fired, business dried up faster than the summer creek. But Sarah didn't care, because the moment she stepped into the Apache village, greeted by grateful eyes, gentle hands, and a recovering young man who whispered thank you, from his bed she realized something powerful. Sometimes losing a job is how you find your purpose. Sometimes being pushed out is how you're guided to where you truly belong. And sometimes the kindness you give to a stranger returns riding over the horizon, stronger, louder, and more life-changing than you ever expected. Sarah didn't sleep that night. The chief's words kept echoing in her mind. "If your ranch no longer welcomes you, our village will." She had lost her job, her home, and the only life she'd known for years. Yet somehow she didn't feel abandoned, not after what she witnessed, not after the way the Apache riders had treated her, with honor she had never received from her own people. The next morning, Sarah walked toward the Apache village with the chief's medallion still clenched in her hand. The desert air was cool, the sky painted in soft gold, and for the first time in a long while, she felt like she wasn't running from something but toward something. As she approached the village, children paused their play, elders lifted their heads, and families slowly gathered to see the woman the chief had spoken of. No one glared. No one whispered. Instead, They stepped closer with quiet curiosity and a respect that surprised her. The chief emerged from one of the lodges. He wasn't dressed like yesterday's warrior, but like a father. Calm, steady, and carrying warmth in his eyes. "Come," he said softly. "My son wants to see you." Sarah followed him inside. The wounded young man lay propped up on furs, his chest still bandaged but his breathing stronger. When he saw Sarah, his eyes softened. "You stayed," he whispered. Sarah knelt beside him, the way she had in the desert. "I wasn't going to leave you there." For a moment the room was silent, until the young man took her hand, surprising her. "You saved my life. That makes you family." The chief nodded. "In our tribe, the one who saves is tied to the one saved. You are welcome here, not as a guest, but as kin." Sarah didn't know what to say. No one had ever offered her belonging with such simplicity. A gentle laugh suddenly broke the emotion in the room. The young man's little sister, peeking from behind a blanket holding a small clay bowl. "It's for you," she said shyly. "Welcome gift." Inside was a simple stew, but Sarah felt her eyes burn with tears. She had been fired for showing compassion, and now compassion was the reason she was being embraced. As she shared the meal with the chief's family, she noticed something. The Apache people didn't treat her like an outsider. They asked her questions, shared stories, and even teased one another gently, filling the lodge with warmth she had never felt on Collins's ranch. But outside the village, things were changing fast. One of the Apache scouts returned, breathless, stepping into the lodge without ceremony. "Chief, men are gathering at the Collins ranch," he reported. "Guns and horses." Sarah's heart dropped. She knew exactly why. Collins wasn't just angry, he was humiliated. And men like him didn't let humiliation rest. The chief glanced at Sarah, then at his son, then back at the scout. "Prepare the riders," he ordered. "Collins will face both." Sarah exhaled, heart pounding. She hadn't expected this. She had only tried to help a wounded man, and now she stood between two worlds about to collide. But one thing was certain. She wasn't alone anymore. And the next time Collins saw her, she would be standing with people who valued humanity over hatred.